Hello, everybody. How are you doing this happy Friday? Oh, boy, it's Friday. You know what that means, John?
What's it mean?
That means they can get a beer after work, hang out, do what they got to do, but they can kick back and drink a cold one and listen to our podcast regarding fantasy football, get all that knowledge, and chill. They don't have to do anything. I mean, work's done. It's done for the week.
Yeah, I mean, getting ready for the weekend. You know what's happening this weekend though? What's Sunday? It's our listener league live draft.
You're right. Our live draft Sunday. Ooh, you caught me there slipping. My bad. I completely forgot about that till now. And the winner of that draft, well, actually, the winner of that league is going to take this beautiful Tyreek Hill signed Kansas City Chief helmet away from us, and I'm going to be sad.
Yeah, I know. It's been so nice to sit here and look at episode in and episode out.
We still got at least, 19 weeks, technically, because we got 2 weeks until football.
And then 17,
after that. And then plus we may be able to squeeze one more week out of it to just...
shipping issues or, maybe a hurricane or something comes around at that time.
Hurricane in January, baby.
We'll take it.
So, anyways, welcome to the Fantasy Tap. We are very excited to have you today. It's going to be a great show. We are starting our consensus quarterback rankings. We finished our running backs. We finished our wide receivers. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are on to our quarterbacks.
The quarterbacks, the signal callers, the man who has the ball in their hands every play. So this is going to be...
the second person who touches the ball on every play.
Yeah. The center counts.
He is a person. They are people too.
They are people too. But so this is someone who's going to be having the ball in their hands every play. And what you're looking for in a fantasy purpose is someone who throws the ball a lot.
Like a quarterback. Quarterback throws the ball a lot.
So what I'm talking about is the difference between a quarterback who will throw the ball and a quarterback that's going to be handing the ball off a lot more than other ones are going to. And if they're not throwing or handing it off, hopefully they're running it themselves. And you have quarterbacks on there who get a bunch of points just on the ground themselves. So
tons of them.
In fantasy leagues, you want a good quarterback. You either want an elite one or you just want a good one. Sometimes you don't want to spend that super high capital. Sometimes people aren't even getting drafted as a quarterback, and they can go week one finishes, week in, week out by the end of the season, and you can get a lot of value.
Yeah, 100%. There is the quarterback position is probably the most underrated. I would say underrated in fantasy football due to the fact that there are so many that put up so many numbers and can compete. It's easy to stream a quarterback. It is great to draft the first quarterback because they're going to put up numbers. However, it depends on how comfortable you are taking a quarterback as early as possible or as late. So, anyways, we're getting into our consensus. But before we do, we are just going to touch on the beer and then get into our news. Today's beer of the day is the Blue Point Brewing Company's Toasted Lager. It's an American-style amber. So far, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, this is a pretty just solid, nice, basic beer. When you think of, hey, I'm going to go drink a beer, this is just like the pretty most average flavor I can think of. There's nothing super special. It's just nice, clean, crisp, and hoppy.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of hop. It's crisp. It's cold. It's nice. But we'll get into that a little bit later. But let's move. Let's get into our show overview real quick. We are going to be, like I said, talking about our news of the news because we got a ton of it. There is a ton. It's camp time. Like we said last time, it's camp time, ton of news. We'll talk about that, and then we will get into our consensus quarterback rankings. So let's jump into our news today, and the first piece of news we have, kind of talked about this, it's Patriots running back. kind of talked about it yesterday, but Damian Harris took almost all first-team work. John, and that was reported by the NBC Sports in Boston. John, what does that tell you? What?
So basically for me, that's telling us that Sony, even when Sony Michel came back yesterday or back on Wednesday's practice, he was still working. He already started working in the first team, but yesterday he was getting half the reps. So today when they're telling us that Damian Harris is getting a majority of them, you're either learning that maybe Sony Michel's still just working himself out of that injury, or Damian Harris has just worked himself into a bigger role by producing and having that opportunity to produce so far in camp. So I like Damian Harris a lot. Sony's someone who's I've always been afraid to, commit to. So personally, I like the news. It makes me feel good. Hoping that Damian Harris can get a big role, but still something I'm going to stay away from for now.
Yeah, I mean, right now that backfield's a little too risky for me. I mean, Damian Harris is a value. The news I've been seeing out of New England is that, I mean, he's been lighting it up, before Sony got there and today, obviously, or yesterday when Sony returned. However, I kind of think it may be Sony's been out, and injured the entire camp. So I think that they may just be trying to slowly work him into the offense and into camp so he doesn't get hurt again. But, I mean, Damian Harris is definitely somebody to keep an eye on and see kind of how it plays out, especially the next couple days, until next Tuesday. A lot of drafts. I mean, personally, I've got a draft coming up on the 4th, September 4th. So next Friday, about, a week from today. So I would just see, season starts on September 10th, just see kind of what is going on with that backfield. There's going to be some value somewhere in that backfield. It's just who's going to have it. Like I said yesterday, for me personally, James White is somebody I'm looking at. But it's still not. It doesn't feel great because it's scary. It could be anybody.
It's a risky play with high upside because if he does become someone Cam Newton finds comfortable throwing the ball to on a regular basis in the backfield, then he's going to be getting those points, especially in a half-point PPR or PPR league.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the closer you get to your draft time, just make sure you're checking up on your news. That's someone you're going to want to check in on right before your draft and just see what's going on there. And then if you've gotten to the point where you may be drafting tomorrow or drafting sometime this week, he might even end up on a waiver or something. So make sure you pay attention to that news moving forward and see if anyone does pick up whatever running back produces and ends up out of camp starting week 1, because that offense might be something you want a share of when everyone's going lower, and you could pick them up as a flex.
Yeah, so just to let you guys know, currently Sony is going as ADP 73.6. Damian is going as the 117.5, I believe. Let me just double check. Yeah, 117.5. And James White is going as 86.4. So James White's just behind Sony. And then obviously Damian Harris is a lot further back there. So I'm staying.
What about Rex Burkhead?
I mean, he's pretty much undraftable, and he did take some.
I mean, he had 4 finishable weeks last year where he finished over 15 points in a PPR league. So I mean, again, kind of just goes to show you that in New England's backfield, it's going to be which man is it, and that's why you're kind of risking and flexing away from anyone unless someone really shows out and gets that work.
Yeah, I mean, through the past couple years, Rex has definitely had some serviceable weeks. I think he's more of a flex play, in my opinion, when a couple running backs go down. And it's very hard to predict when he's going to get those touchdowns is
Absolutely.
Really what he's going to be scoring those fantasy points on. 2017 was when he had his best year, and he finished as the running back 39 with 5 touchdowns. So it's very hard to predict him. However, just keep an eye on this whole Patriots backfield right now. My best bet would be to grab James White. Maybe Damian Harris, later on because he is so late. Just take a shot on him. But just keep an eye on that. But next we have a little bit of not coach speak. I mean, he's old enough to be a coach, but Drew Brees predicted that Trequan Smith is going to have a breakout year, and this is coming 5 days after Sean Payton said that he wants to get Trequan involved more in the offense. As a UCF fan, I like that. I like that Trequan's gonna get better or gonna get some more snaps. But does he pass Emmanuel Sanders this year? I don't think so. Personally, of course, he's not going to get anywhere close to Michael Thomas, but I think he is going to be serviceable. Flex player, a couple weeks. It's just finding those weeks. John, what are your thoughts on Trequan?
Personally, he's someone that I drafted in one of my first dynasty leagues early on, and I've always, again, been waiting for him to break out. He's had some decent finishes. I mean, in his rookie year, he finished as the wide receiver 66 in a standard league, only getting 44 targets from Brees. So he's more of that deep threat, and he can have good games here and there. But last year, he did miss a handful of games, only playing 11, when he did have that opportunity to move forward in that offense, being that number 2 for Michael Thomas, hopefully under. But now with Emmanuel Sanders there, I just don't see him getting enough of that share to be a breakout unless Michael Thomas is happy not getting that work that he's used to and that he's shown he can do a lot with.
Yeah, no, 100%. I don't see. I mean, they have Michael Thomas, they have Emmanuel Sanders, they have Jared Cook, they have Alvin Kamara out of the backfield. So there are plenty of targets to go around already before getting to Trequan. I do think he's going to be I think he's a solid secondary receiver, and maybe next year, when Emmanuel is gone, then he could take that next step into being a decent wide receiver flex player. But this year, I'm not going to take him with my last pick. He's currently going as the ADP 209.5, so he is free pretty much. And if something does happen to Emmanuel Sanders before season or during season, then I would consider picking him up in the as a bench player. But at this point, there are other players I'm going to be taking or taking a shot at, taking a stab at before I take it with Trequan.
Yeah, with him ending up on the waivers by the end of the draft, you're gonna have to end up and watch how he ends up after week 1 and see what the Saints do with him in the offense and what type of workload Emmanuel Sanders gets while he's there.
Mm-hmm.
So someone to pay attention to and look out for, even if he doesn't have a super breakout week on week 1, if you see him getting a good amount of targets, he could go unnoticed. It might be someone you want to drop someone weak on your roster to pick him up and just look at him and hold him in case those targets turn into work. But pay attention to him. If Brees is one of the best quarterbacks almost ever.
Yeah, he's definitely a top 5, top 10.
It could just be quarterback speak, but it's worth looking into and
just keep an eye on him
through
the season. So let's move on to Andre Dillard. Unfortunately for the Eagles, man.
Losing linemen left and right, and not even their new ones or not even their second string. It's just they're big.
They're big guys. Yeah, they're big guys. This year was supposed to be a breakout year for Miles Sanders, and it's looking more unlikely and more unlikely as they as we progress into the season. Last year, PFF had them ranked as the number 1 overall offensive line in the league. That's ahead of the Colts. That's ahead of some the Cowboys. That's ahead of some really, really good offensive lines. So losing, first of all, they lost their left guard, I believe. They did sign Jason Peters back to fill that left guard position, but now they lose their left tackle, which is a huge anchor in that offensive line. So seeing what they do between now and the season is going to be very interesting. John, does it knock Miles Sanders down a little bit? He is dealing with a little bit of injury at this point. Does it? I mean, are you going to take him where he's, being drafted at this point?
No, personally, I think that his injury is going to hurt him more, and his nagging injury risk is going to hurt him more than this offensive line being hurt. I mean, you're still going to be able to. I mean, they did just draft a guard in Prince Tigo Wanna-Go.
Is that how you say it?
I wouldn't bet my life on it, but he's a tackle from Auburn. They have some depth. They did pick up more people in the offseason. They have another new guy out of the Canadian Football League, Julian Good-Jones. They picked up guards. They have depth in young guys, so maybe someone can pop up for them and really take over that spot. But I don't think it's going to be that tremendous to what the running back's going to do, or even how much time Carson Wentz is going to get in the backfield to get the ball out in his passing situations. It's sad, but it's not a big deal.
See, I'm on the other side of that. I think it is very scary for me if they can replace him. Maybe move Jason Peters to the left tackle where he played last year, and then fill that guard spot, because there are some guards on the that are free agents, and they do have a couple guys, like you said, behind him that may be capable. But for me, it's with his injury plus the offensive line. Worries. Currently he's going as the 11.9, so he's going as a top in the first round, ADP. So I kind of feel it's a little high. Obviously, his ceiling is very high, but with his injury and the offensive line worries, it's kind of I'm starting to fade away from him a little bit. If he falls to me at the beginning of the second, if I'm at the turn, he's my second player. Then I consider taking him. But if he's my first running back or first player that I'm taking, I think I'm going to fade away just a little bit due to those concerns.
I'm not too afraid of their offensive line. It's not the greatest. It's not the best.
You sure? Because last year they were ranked the best.
But no, I'm saying even with these injuries, they're still not the worst. And with these injuries, they're obviously not going to be the best. But you still do have Jason Kelce at center. You got Jason Peters, as you said, at right guard. And then you have Lane Johnson at that right tackle. So they do have some veteran standouts. And then that rookie depth and a little bit of free agent depth, they're going to be able to hold up the front five. They have three solid players. They can take care of the other two spots. And then I don't see that hurting them. Again, my only real nag on Miles Sanders is going to be that injury and whether or not it's going to be a nagging one, because we're seeing it nag through training camp and him missing a decent amount of time.
So if you can grab, a top-end wide receiver, let's say Tyreek Hill in the first round at the turn. All right, say you're picking an 11. You grab Tyreek Hill, and then it's between Miles Sanders and Austin Eckler. Who are you grabbing?
I'm taking Austin Eckler.
Okay.
I like Austin Eckler a lot.
Yeah, me too. So, what about Kenyon Drake?
I would take Miles Sanders over Kenyon Drake. I just think that even though Cliff Kingsbury's coming out talking about how much he loves Kenyon and he's amazing and blah, 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 he said all about that all about David Johnson. You can't really trust Kenyon. You didn't see a full season from him.
You've never seen a full season.
I like Miles Sanders. He's young. At least his questionable about his being a full season is the fact that he only was a rookie last year. So, I'll take the risk. And I like him because he has that dedicated workload with Boston Scott behind him.
Yeah. No, it's a hard one for me. I mean, I'm going to take Austin Eckler over Miles Sanders. I'm very high on him, especially in a half and a full PPR league. But with Kenyon Drake, right now I have Miles Sanders ahead of Kenyon Drake by 2 spots. With this injury, it's difficult, but I think that they're going to fill somebody in, so I would definitely take Miles Sanders there. So let's move on to our it's just a situation to monitor. See what they do with the offensive line, just to get to that point. But let's move on to our next piece of news, and that is David Montgomery. I believe, did we talk about it yesterday? A little bit,
Yeah,
I believe.
we did mention that he left the field, but today, after being a little more looked at, Ian Rappaport from the NFL stated that due to the groin injury suffered in Wednesday's practice, Montgomery will actually be missing the last couple of weeks of training camp in an attempt to be healthy for the upcoming season. The initial reports yesterday kind of stirred up fears about what was going to happen to him, what actually went wrong in that fall, if it was anything that would make him miss a few games. But with what's coming out, they're trying to make sure that he's going to be healthy for week 1 and for the season. So should be good.
Yeah, no, I mean, 2 to 4 weeks kind of scares me. We're 2 weeks away from football. I wouldn't expect him to be there for at least a Lions game. They're probably going to take take it easy on him. And then after that, they have the Giants. So those first 2 weeks, I wouldn't expect to get too much work out of him. After that, he could be a solid fantasy asset. He is currently going as ADP 40.5, and I think that it's worrisome. It's definitely worrisome to begin the year, but it's nothing serious to where I don't think that he will take too big of an impact throughout the season. So moving on from David Montgomery, we mentioned it yesterday. We thought Kalen Ballage got cut. Everybody in the league did. However, the Jets were smart enough, maybe, to trade a conditional 7th-round pick for Kalen Ballage to the Dolphins.
Or they could have just picked him up, a little bit later, and
maybe they were scared that somebody was going to get that solid talent or something. Maybe
it's like going to Costco and paying for free samples.
Yeah, you saw that on Twitter.
I did. It was
Adam
hilarious.
Rank said that.
I did. It was great.
That was a good one.
So great, I stole it.
But then, unfortunately, Deandre Swift has remained absent from the Lions practice with a leg injury. Tim Twentyman of the Lions posted that on.
Great name.
Right? Twentyman. Is that... First, when I read that, I thought it might have been
no. I mean,
typo.
I typed it in there, and I thought so too until it was right. It's actually the guy's name.
Now, what does that do for Kerryon Johnson? Does that bump him up a little bit for you for the beginning of the season? I mean,
no. Again, they're kind of just like the David Montgomery thing, except it doesn't seem the injuries as bad, or why ever they're keeping him out is as bad. But they're trying to keep him ready for week 1.
Yeah, but it's scary for a running back or for a rookie. I mean,
It to me, it means something when the coaches or the guys coming out, or no, I'm sorry, not the coach, but they're coming out and talking about how they're looking forward to him being ready for week 1 and having a role. And I think that's something that's going to follow through and come through. I just am fanning away from Kerryon. I mean, if you want to use the draft pick on him, there's a lot of other people going around him. I mean, Swift himself is possibly even going to have a better situation by the end of the year.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's kind of, I mean, for me, it's kind of worrisome. I'm kind of fading both of them. It's going to be more of a timeshare. Do you have where Swift's going currently ADP?
I have Kerryon Johnson going right now at 93, or 92.6, which is right around Marvin Jones, Sony Michel, and Deontay Johnson. And
Deandre Swift is going at 60.1. So, quite a bit higher than Kerryon. He's going around, Ronald Jones, Marquise Brown, Cam Akers, who's somebody we're about to talk about. So let's, it's kind of worrisome. It's kind of worrisome for me with that leg injury, especially being a rookie. But, if you pick him up later on in the year, he could definitely really return on value. At the beginning of the season, I kind of think that with this injury and with the timeshare, or somewhat of a timeshare, it could be pretty rough. But the last 8 games or so, he could really return on value. So next we have Daryl Henderson He did. Coach McVay said he does not, he does expect Henderson to be ready for the season opener with his injury. Jordan Rodriguez of The Athletic reported that Daryl Henderson was seen on sideline Wednesday working with team trainers. So, and like I said, Coach McVay said he expects him back for week 1. There's been a lot of Cam Akers hype coming in, especially with the injury of Daryl Henderson. It's kind of a crowded backfield. John, real quick, Deandre Swift or Cam Akers?
I actually like Deandre Swift more than I like Cam Akers this year. As much as the Lions like to use Carrion, and as great as Carrion showed himself to be last year.
Well, he was kind of injured though, but when he was on the field, he was decent.
I mean, he got almost more than half the season played last year. How many games did he get?
I thought he got 4. But anyways,
okay.
Carrion or Swift, or Akers or Swift.
I would absolutely take Swift. I think that he's going to be a PPR monster. I think he's just going to be an absolute monster for the Lions. And I think that the Rams have spent enough draft capital in the past couple years on these guys that are all getting that timeshare that they're still just trying to figure out who that fit's going to be now that Gurley's gone. And as great as Cam Akers is, they've got people that have been in that offense already and might just have a good enough share. I like Swift having more of a role in Detroit.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Carrion did get 8 games last year. Just to clear that up. Little fist. No,
all right,
no.
Makes me second guess myself.
Yeah, well, I thought it was 4, but so I would agree. Swift has the higher upside, and at that point, I'm going to take the higher upside back. So, and then to our last piece of news. Joe Mixon, has been out the past couple days with migraines. Hopefully it's nothing serious. Obviously there has been some contract negotiations. I don't think he'll be, sitting out due to contract because they are getting fined $50,000 a day. That's a lot of money when they do that. So, I mean, hopefully it is just the migraines and not contract negotiations between the two, the Bengals and Mixon. The sky's the limit for this guy. I mean, he has the talent to be a top 5 fantasy running back. And with the quarterback and Jonah Williams, I believe it's Jonah Williams coming back.
Yes, sir.
Their offensive lineman they drafted last year who was injured at the beginning of the year. And adding, a couple key pieces to that offense, I think he could really break out, even and have an even better season than last year. And I mean, he's got the talent. Can he put it together? But he has been dealing with some migraines. So nothing. I mean, as long as it's just migraines, it's nothing too much to worry about.
No.
So, but anyways, that's it. That's our news of the day. Let's move on to our consensus quarterbacks, our rankings for our quarterbacks. And first, John, you want to get it kicked off?
I feel like every time we get to a position, it's not so much of an argument who that number one's going to be. I mean, we went running back. It was Christian McCaffrey. Wide receiver, you're looking at Michael Thomas. And again, you're looking at someone who was the quarterback one last year, and that's going to be Lamar Jackson, coming off record-breaking season, passing for over 3,000 yards, leading the league in touchdowns and rushing for over 1,000 yards, just lighting up the field and creating a whole new offense. Even Michael Vick himself has come out and said that he's not copying Michael Vick. He's being himself. So someone you're going to want to draft. Currently, he's going at the ADP of 17.5. And in most leagues, it's the quarterback 2, with one person going before him. I actually have him statted out above Patrick Mahomes, and that's mainly due to the fact that he just gets so much rushing yards and so many rushing quarterbacks, and even the fact that in a standard 4-point touchdown league, your rushing touchdowns are more points than your throwing touchdowns. So if he's ending a drive with a rushing touchdown, it's going to be 2 more points than him passing that ball anyways. So those points just add up. Those rushing yards add up a lot quicker than passing yards. And he's just so dynamic and elusive that he's going to end up doing it again this year. Even out of regression, you're still going to see quarterback 1 numbers.
For sure. I mean, they do have, according to PFF, they do have the 9th hardest schedule or strength of schedule. Obviously, it's compared to last year. So, but we saw Lamar run and throw on everybody. I mean, I don't think that he's going to be getting the rushing yards as he did, or at least the attempts. I think they're going to try to keep him in the pocket a little bit more. They did draft Devin Duvernay there as well to add to Mark Andrews, Marquise Brown, who's going to be healthy, a little bit healthier this year. He did add some pounds, so hopefully he stays healthy through the year. They have Miles Boykin, like I said, Devin Duvernay, and then they did draft James Prochet. So they're trying to, I think, pass the ball a little bit more. So to keep Lamar healthy. However, with the ability for Lamar to pass the ball and as well as his ability to run the ball, I think he's a no-brainer for a quarterback 1. I mean, it's just, even if he regresses on the touchdowns with that rushing upside and the rushing touchdowns, I think he's going to finish as a quarterback 1. Barring injury or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he led the league in touchdowns while finishing 26th in attempts. It's insane touchdown percentage that even at a regression, still going to finish up there, either at the 1, maybe the 2, but that's going to be him at a super regression.
Now, where would you take him, though?
So I hate taking early round quarterbacks unless I'm drafting at a turn. And that's just because I like to know who else I'm grabbing before I take that risk. I'm not grabbing either him or the other first round or the other top 2 quarterback, at least until the 3rd, maybe the 4th if they fall to me there. I'm not reaching. So at ADP 17, that would put him in the back end of the 2. Like I said, I'd grab him at the 3-1 or the 2-12.
If I'm drafting at the 1-1 or the 1-2, I mean, I'll take him with my 3rd pick, at that 3-1, 3-2 spot. I'll take him pretty much, depending on how my team looks so far, pretty much anywhere I can in the 3rd. It's kind of high for a quarterback, especially with Dak, Russell, Kyler behind him, who could potentially put up similar numbers. Maybe not as high. The ceiling's not as high, but they have the opportunity.
Not far behind,
right?
But they're a tier below.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I mean, Patrick and Lamar are a tier.
Yeah.
But if I can grab 3 solid or 4 or 5 solid
players
before I pick a quarterback, then I'm going to go that route. But if he falls to me in the 3rd round, I think I'd take him there.
Yeah, I'd pick him up for sure in the 3rd.
And then, of course, as our number 2 quarterback, we have Josh Rosen.
For the Miami Dolphins, currently going at ADP of 678.
No, we, of course, obviously, I mean, arguably the best, arguably the best quarterback in the league.
You got to make sure you say arguably, because when you make that conversation, you open up so many cans of worms.
We could be here for hours and hours talking about that.
We'd still be wrong.
So, arguably the best quarterback. I mean, he's the only quarterback making $500 million in 10 years. So, that's Pat Mahomes. He's currently going ADP 10.7, the quarterback 1 off the board. Last year, he finished as the quarterback 7 on 14 games. They've got a high-powered offense. They won the Super Bowl. They've got Tyreek Hill. Mecole Hardman's going to take a step forward. You've got Sammy Watkins there. I forgot about Travis Kelce. And their defense has gotten a little bit stronger. So, I mean, same situation for me. If I can get him in the 3rd round as my 3rd player, I will take Pat Mahomes. I'm not going to take him in the 2nd. I'm not going to take him in the 1st. In a super flex league, I would take him. I mean, potentially
second, 3rd pick, honestly.
Yeah, overall, I mean, I would take him. If I had top 3 pick, I'd take him there. But in a standard league, with one quarterback, I'll take him in the third round. Any earlier than that, I can get similar value, fourth, fifth, sixth round. So, John, are you kind of leaning the same way?
Yeah, our 1 through 5 consensus, I believe, is absolutely 100% the same as far as how we have them ranked.
These two?
Yeah.
Yeah, the first two, yeah. I think we have Dak and Russell and Kyler mixed a little bit, but
okay. But no, these first two, I'm totally comfortable. And when you're talking about a tier jump between them, they are in a tier of their own. Lamar and Patrick Mahomes are both someone who are the only quarterbacks who you can almost expect them to put up 40 points against you in a reasonable league. So when you can pick them up, you want to do it early because they're not going to fall too late. And then when I say early, that's in that third round, which is really that money spot for either of them. Fourth round, if they fall to you, is just luck. You're not going to want to reach, though, just because, like he was saying earlier, you can grab more value. Personally, I do have Patrick Mahomes leading the NFL in passing yards next season and passing touchdowns. He's going to be someone who balls out, and even if he's not putting up his 2018 numbers where he threw for 50 touchdowns, he's still going to put up quarterback 2 numbers, in my opinion.
Overall, quarterback
finished the second best quarterback in a fantasy football finish by the end of the season, if not the one, depending if he can have another great season like 2018. Last year, he did only get to play 14 games, and he finished as the quarterback 7. But even if he played those 16 games at that pace, he's not breaking Lamar's record-breaking season, and even with Lamar, a slight regression, you're not seeing that either. So Patrick Mahomes, absolute monster. Don't want to play against him. Want him on your team. Just make sure you're not reaching for him because you can grab value at other places.
Yeah, and the biggest reason why is because if he gets hurt, then your quarterback is shot, where you could argue, oh, well, what if my running back 1 or 2 or wide receiver 1 got hurt? But you can there's so much value in those positions later on, but there's even more value in a quarterback even further. So
yeah, you're not going to be missing out on that many points if your running back 1 goes down and you grab someone else to fill their spot.
Right.
If you grab the quarterback early, you're going to be taking such a huge hit because you're not going to be having that value when you could have grabbed a quarterback
exactly
later on and only missed out on like 30, 40 points.
Exactly. So let's move on to our next quarterback, and that's Dak Prescott. High-powered offense. He's got potentially – actually, no. I don't even know if it's arguable anymore. He's got the best weapons around him. He's got 3 wide receiver 1s and a solid probably a top 3 running back, and then a pretty solid tight end there. He's got CeeDee Lamb, Blake Jarwin is a tight end. He's got Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper, and Zeke, and then Tony Pollard is one of the better backup running backs in the NFL. Not to mention they've got one of the best offensive lines. So currently he's going ADP 55 or 54.5, quarterback 5 off the board. He finished as the quarterback 2 last year. It's kind of funny because the other day, I believe, what was it, Amari? I think it was Amari Cooper said that all 3, CeeDee, Gallup, and Amari could finish as 3 receivers with 1,000 yards. And originally when he said that, I thought he was crazy. And I still think it's a little bit crazy. But as we keep progressing through camp and the news keeps coming out of CeeDee balling, Gallup balling, and Amari balling, I think it might be possible. I mean, I don't know. I don't have any stats if it's ever happened before. But Dak has so many weapons around him that, I mean, going at the quarterback 5, I think he's potentially the steal of the draft. I mean, because
really the steal of the draft. He's going as the quarterback 5, and he's possibly finishing as the quarterback 3. If
maybe steal of the draft is not the best
I was gonna say
term, but he could. I mean, he has close to as much opportunity as Pat Mahomes and Lamar Jackson to finish as the 1. You don't think so? With all the weapons around him?
No. There's
you don't
no
think
way
there's
in
any
hell.
possibility for him to finish at one?
No way in hell. You've got Zeke running the ball way too much and taking too much of a chunk out of that offense in the rushing game. There's no way you're going to have Dak throwing for 40 touchdowns or anywhere close to that number.
We don't have anybody throwing for 40 touchdowns.
I've got Patrick Mahomes throwing 39.
That's not 40?
It's just under or anywhere close to 40. I mean, but realistically, you don't have you don't have Dak having that rushing upside of Lamar. There's no way. If Lamar and Patrick Mahomes play a full 16 games, there's no way that Dak finishes above them, even on his best season, and which would have been last year.
I think there's a possibility. I mean, he did finish as the quarterback 2 last year, and Lamar Jackson did break a ton of records. So, I mean, I think he has the best weapons around him.
He has the best weapons around him. He is one of the best offensive lines that did take a small downtick this year. So I'll agree with you there. But no, the offense that he's in and how it's run is completely different than the other 2 offenses where our 1 or 2 are going, and there's no way that he breaks into there without either of them missing decent chunk of time.
Even with Mike McCarthy saying that he's upgraded his offense. I mean, he helped. He helped. He was the quarterback coach. He was the coach whenever Aaron Rodgers finished as the quarterback 1.
I'll fight it until I die. There is no way.
Well, you'll fight anything till it dies. So
because it's just not even reasonable.
I mean, it is. It's definitely reasonable. He finished as the quarterback 2 last year. I mean, that's one spot away from the 1.
And we had a guy who played 14 games finish on the 7 and finishes 7. You give him 2 more games, he's finishing above Dak Prescott last year.
I don't know. I mean, that's
you give Patrick Mahomes 2 more games. What?
2 games? I mean, we're talking. Anyways, we'll argue this until the end of the days. But I think Dak Prescott is definitely in a position and has a possibility to finish as a quarterback. As the quarterback 1, I'm not saying he's going to. I don't have him finishing there, but he's definitely got a potential to. But let's move on to Kyler Murray.
Some games.
Let's move on to Kyler Murray. He's going to be our consensus 4. Last year, he finished as the quarterback 8, ADP 52.8, and the this year he's going ADP 52.8 and going quarterback 4. So we have him where he is going pretty much. I think that's one of the guys that we're not reaching for, but grabbing in those later rounds because he also has that rushing upside. And obviously they added DeAndre Hopkins. So, I mean, John, what's your take on Kyler?
Personally, I think that Kyler, I like using Russell Wilson as a gauge of maybe when to grab him and taking an idea of who's in my draft. Because, with quarterbacks, especially once you move down to this tier of quarterbacks, you're kind of looking around and seeing, all right, well, when's that push going to happen? Can I wait another round before I need to grab my guy? So if I see, Russell Wilson move off the board, I know that, okay, the second quarterback push is coming and I need to grab him now. I love Kyler Murray. I think that he's going into his sophomore season, he's going to be able to, hopefully run the ball just as much as he did. They just had an upgrade at receiver with one of the best receivers in the league coming to their team. They do still have Larry Fitzgerald and the emergence of Christian Kirk that could be possible. They've got absolute upside all over the place. And if Kenyon Drake goes down and they don't have him to rely on, I think Kyler has that rushing upside that could really put him over the top. He just needs to get himself in the end zone just a little bit more and not let Josh Allen lead the league in rushing touchdowns for a quarterback.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's one of the guys I've been targeting. Like you said, I think it's great to see kind of when, because it's a mix, depending on who you're playing with. Does Dak go first? Does Kyler go first? Does Russ go first? Though, I mean, I would say those are the same tier of quarterbacks. So once they start going, depending on how my team looks, I would grab them. I think, I would be comfortable with any of them, going where they're at. I mean, that's kind of why we have them at 3, 4, and 5. They all have upside of being, a top 3 quarterback. So I would definitely, with Kyler being there, he is younger. It is going to be interesting on what they do in that offense with DeAndre there. But I think with the addition of him, he's got the best receiving core he's had, over last year, obviously. So, and with the rushing upside, I mean, he's solid pickup. Like I said, one of the guys I'm targeting in the draft. So let's move on to Russell Wilson, a guy that we kind of just mentioned, currently going ADP 50.4, quarterback 3, finished last year as the quarterback 3. He's got DK coming into his sophomore year. Tyler Lockett is healthy. They have Chris Carson, who's supposedly or going to be healthy by the beginning of the season. They just picked up Carlos Hyde. But I guess the big question is will Pete Carroll let Russell Wilson throw the ball?
I'm hoping so, because that's really the only thing holding him back. He did finish as the quarterback 3, like you said, last year, and that's only coming off of a total of 516 attempts, which is pretty moderate in his finishes year to year. But 2017, he finished as the quarterback 1 on 553 attempts. He did throw for 34 touchdowns. Last year, he got 31 of them. So you can see that Russ is someone who can air the ball out.
Oh, yeah.
With maybe Chris Carson being slightly banged up. Carlos Hyde has been added to the offense, but maybe he's not getting that workload that we're projecting him to get, or that share that it's going to take away from Carson. And Penny being out himself, maybe Russ is going to be allowed to air the ball out, especially if Will Dissly can come back healthy and ready to go this year. And he can work up those passing yards, and that can push him up. But personally, I just see him having another year like last year, where he's getting his about 500 attempts and possibly even regressing on his rushing attempts. Last year, he ran the ball 75 times, got 342 yards, which is the year before that he got 376 on 67 carries. What boosted him last year was his 3 rushing touchdowns, which the year before he got 0. And he's gotten 1 a couple years prior, back to back to back. So I don't know if you can count on Russell's rushing upside that's been there as much. I want to say that you might want to see it regress slightly. That year he finished 1, he ran for 586 yards, and I just don't see it if they're going to be airing the ball out in the same way. And with him coming into 31 years old, he's getting a little older, and if he wants to play those extra 5 years, 10 years that he's talking about, he's going to need to slow down.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, I currently have him as my I have him just ahead of Deshaun Watson at my quarterback 5 by a couple points and barely behind Kyler Murray. So I do think that they're going to slow him down in the run game potentially. And then I do have him throwing a little bit more with Tyler and DK there in the offense, and then Will Dissly's coming back as well. So I think that he's going to be a solid pickup when, like we said, when they start going. As long as they're in that 5th, 6th round, I'd take them depending on how my team looks. But there are some other values late as well that you can grab and stack up on another player or wide receiver, running back. So. But overall, Russell Wilson, 5 consensus. Let's move on to Deshaun Watson. That is our 6th overall consensus quarterback. Currently going ADP 62.9, quarterback 6 off the board. And last year he finished as quarterback 4. He doesn't have DeAndre Hopkins, but he did add Randall Cobb. He's got Brandon Cooks now as well, and he's got Will Fuller, Kenny Stills, couple other players to throw to, Darren Fells, stuff like that. So nobody who's obviously at the level of DeAndre, but some players who have shown they can at least compete in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean he's got a receiving core filled with B+ caliber receivers. They're all really solid. I mean, you saw all Brandon Cooks ball out with the Rams. You saw Kenny Stills do a really good job for the Dolphins when he was there. Randall Cobb had a good stint with the Cowboys and again with the Packers. So all of these receivers have been really good. Not someone who's ever taken a full number 1 role from anyone. Will Fuller's and actually all of them are people who are chronically hurt.
Yeah.
So I feel like he's just going to be going through a rotation of receivers. So I don't trust any of his receivers to stand out, but I do trust his arm, and I do trust him as a player. He's only 24 years old.
Ooh, he's younger than me.
Young. And so, I mean, finishing as the number 4 last year and number 4 in 2018, you can expect him to have another good year. But you do have Kyler Murray stepping it up, and, you know, Lamar, Dak stepping it up as well last year. With the regression in his receiver talent, even his tight end talent, even David Johnson being there, I'm not seeing him being able to put up those same numbers that you're expecting him to, but just slightly less. If anything, it would take him to be running the ball more, and at that situation, he's been injured too much to take that risk, and I don't think Houston wants to let him do that.
Yeah, I mean, so currently I have him as overall 6 in my rankings. However, I think it is because he's a very talented quarterback, I think it is a very high-risk 6. I'm personally going to be staying away from him this year. I'd rather grab Dak, Kyler, or Russell right in front of him, or wait a little bit later to grab somebody else, just because I think that, like I said, he's high risk for me without Deandre there. He's a very talented quarterback. He also has the rushing upside, but it's a little bit nerve-wracking for me to see what Bill O'Brien and the rest of that offense does. And with all those wide receivers who are as injury-prone as they are, it worries me a little. So personally, this year I'm staying away from Deshawn. But, I mean, I'm not going to complain if he's my 1, but it's going to be a little bit nerve-wracking.
Great quarterback. Just make sure if you grab him early and you do take the risk on him, just make sure you pick up a second quarterback that you have value on.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, 100%. If there's another quarterback, you know, later on, he'll be one of the quarterbacks I grab a second quarterback with. So, and I don't do that too much. So let's move on to Josh Allen. He is our consensus number 7 quarterback, currently going ADP 82.9. The quarterback 9 finished last year as the quarterback 7. He led the league last year in rushing touchdowns for quarterbacks. He's got the rushing upside. He's got the big arm. He added Stephon Diggs to the offense. He's definitely a later round quarterback that in some drafts he's slipping down. So he's definitely a quarterback that I'm looking at later on. You know, out of those first few rounds, I'm going to be stacking up with, you know, in my running back wide receiver area. I can grab him a little bit later and still have games and a pretty decent season with that rushing upside. So where do you have him at currently, John?
I currently have him personally as my 10, and that's just due to a couple other people that have fallen a little lower in the list that will probably come up pretty soon here. But I do see him having that amazing rushing upside that you're talking about, and you know, like you said, he finished first in rushing touchdowns, but he actually finished second in rushing attempts. For a quarterback last season, as well as rushing attempts in the red zone and red zone carries. Which would be.
That's going to happen. That's going to happen with Lamar in there.
Well, yeah, second. But as we said, Kyler Murray ended up finishing second in yards, rushing yards in the quarterbacks. So all 3 of them are able to run the ball really well. But with that upgrade at receiver going on in Buffalo this year, I'm hoping that he gets a chance to air the ball out a little more. And in total, that's less fantasy points. Being that it's less points per yard. So even with that addition of that receiver help, Buffalo's offense just isn't as fluid or as well-oiled as any of these other offenses that we've had. Yeah. They don't move the ball as well, even though their defense is great. Buffalo's an amazing defense. They just aren't as productive, and his rushing upside is really what gets him where he is. Other than that, I don't see him being that amazing. So,
yeah, that's what it is rushing upside. He's going to get those, especially those goal line attempts. He's going to get those just the rushing ability in general. I only have him throwing for 3,500 yards, even with Stephon Diggs in the offense and only 24 touchdowns. But I do have him at 11 interceptions. So quite a high number. But the rushing upside does pull him up there to our consensus 7. So let's move to our 8th overall quarterback, and that is Aaron Rodgers. Currently going ADP 74.1, quarterback 7. Last year he finished as the quarterback 9. John's doing a little dance over here. John, tell us why he is so high on your list.
So he's not super high on my list. I actually have him here sitting at my quarterback 7. So I think he's just about there. Going where everyone else thinks he's going. I just don't, everyone's talking about how Aaron Rodgers just doesn't seem to have it anymore. He just doesn't seem to be himself. But yet he still seems to have 4,000-yard seasons. Last year, everyone's big knock is his touchdowns. When you see them running the ball into the red zone and Aaron Jones having an unrealistic and unrepeatable rushing season where you're not going to be seeing him getting 16 rushing touchdowns again this season, I think what everyone's knocking him on is stuff that's going to be coming back just as a positive regression based on the fact that they have the same receivers as last year. They have a similar offensive line. They have a similar backfield with the addition of another pass-catching back.
Oh, A.J. Dillon?
Yeah.
He's a goal line back.
I'm sorry. They have another. They added another goal line back, but with a similar finish as you saw last season, more of a connection between him and Adam Lazard, Devontae Adams being healthy, maybe getting more passing touchdowns in that offense in general, and not such a rush heavy red zone. You'll see him jump from that 9 easily towards a 7, maybe even a 5, which is where I actually see his ceiling would be like a top 5 on a great year for him. He's not going to have a number 1 season for you again. Probably not in the rest of his career. He's getting towards that age. I just don't think that he's broken. You don't see Brady, you don't see Brees being to the point to where they're too old to be able to do it. And I think Aaron Rodgers is a talent that's comparable to those two people. Not towards the same level of success, obviously, at least in the Brady case. He does have his Super Bowl. He is an amazing talent, but I don't think he's going anywhere towards a regression, huge regression at least, this season. So I love him. I think he's going to ball out, at least give you what he gave you last season.
Yeah, no, I mean, currently I have him as a quarterback 1. I have him as my quarterback 12. I obviously Devontae Adams is a very solid talent to have. So is Alan Lazard. I think he's been showing out in camp. My only concern is can they replace Jimmy Graham? He did get 60 targets. If Jay Sternberg can step up into that offense, and he's a very talented tight end, he could definitely finish as a top 5 quarterback. But my money is on, a low end 1. But he definitely has the upside of a quarterback 1. We've seen it throughout his entire career. So, he's not somebody I wouldn't be afraid to have on my team. I would say the floor for him is a quarterback 15, 14, and then ceiling, of course, a 5 or a 4. So,
I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah. So, anyways, that is our top 8 quarterbacks. Those are our consensus quarterback rankings. Love it, hate it. That's what it is. So let us know on Instagram and Facebook, or Instagram and Twitter, when we post what you agree with, what you don't. But before we go, we're going to get into our beer of the day. Love that sound. So today we are drinking on the Blue Point Toasted Lager. It is an American-style amber ale from New York, Long Island, New York, to be exact. So I mean, it's a pretty good beer. I enjoy it. Like John said, it's kind of like I would say, like you said, like a Budweiser, but a little sweeter, a little more beery.
It's definitely more smooth. It has that more hoppy flavor, but still has that smoothness. There's no bite. Nothing crazy for me to jump on. I feel like a high school kid that just went to my first party, and I'm like, oh, so this is a beer.
Yeah,
and I'm like, or I'm taking a sip of what my dad was drinking when I was a kid. It just has that like pure beer lager flavor, what you expect from an American ale of any sort. So it does have that clean, nice flavor. It's exactly what you expect, and it kind of just makes you comfortable.
Yeah, I mean it's a little bit sweeter than like a Budweiser, something like that. So if you're not into something so harsh, I guess you could say a Budweiser is. Grab one of these, and it's a step into a lager. Blue Point Brewing Company they were started in 1998. But then in 2004, they really took a big step, and they partnered with Anheuser-Busch, and I think that's one of the reasons why we get that, that Budweiser style beer or flavor-ish. And then in 2019, they expanded their portfolio, their brewing portfolio. But they've got a website, bluepointbrewing.com. They've got, you can find out all their beers, their year-round, seasonal, and their collabs, everything like that. The the Toasted Lager currently is a year-round beer. And then if you go to their website, there's a little button at the top. Click beers, click year-round, then click Toasted Lager, and you can hit the little locate button, and you'll be able to find this beer near you. It's not bad, not great. I mean, it's a decent beer. I'd grab it. If I'm gonna go golfing, I guess golfing would be a good little. Drink a couple of these. Nice, sweet. Like I said, it's a little bit sweeter than a Budweiser.
It's got more of a caramel sweetness, like you're talking about. It definitely has a really nice maltiness, but it's just personally for me, it's
just a beer.
It's just a beer. Nothing was great that stood out, but there was also nothing that stood out that I want to stay away from. So I like it. If I was at a party and there was a cooler filled with a bunch of beers I didn't know, and this one was there, I'd grab this one.
Yeah. Definitely. And then currently we are drinking out of the glass or the bottles, I guess. The can art or the bottle art, it's pretty neat. It's kind of similar to the can. It's got the little buoy out there on the ocean, river, whatever, and then a little map at the top with coordinates. It's pretty neat. But definitely overall a pretty... average, decent beer. I'm not going to go looking for it, and like John said, if it's there and it's one of the only I'll grab it, but I'm not going to go finding the Toasted Lager. It's just a beer.
Yeah, it's not a bad one though.
Not bad. Just
good. It's a good beer. It's just not great.
So
nothing special about it.
What would you give the
It's
score?
a 6.
6? Yeah.
It's a 6.
I would agree. It's
average, but it's not bad.
I would give it like just like a 5.7. It's like my lowest, but
5.7. Okay.
Yeah. But it's it's okay. It's okay. So but anyways, that is it.
Unsponsored.
Yeah, they hate us right now. So that is it. That's what we got for
if we're gonna say it that way, they may hate us, but the fact that it's not terrible lets you know that they do know what they're doing.
Yeah,
it just might not be the beers for us.
5, 3.
So it definitely opens me up to try out their other stuff. And again, nothing wrong with it.
Just not something that knocks my socks off.
Yeah.
So that is it. That is our top 8 consensus quarterback rankings. It was a good show.
Yeah, I really liked it. I hope you guys really enjoyed those quarterback rankings. Hopefully people that you Some of them you expected, a couple you didn't, maybe not as high as you wanted. Again, if you guys want to reach out to us and tell us why we're wrong about some of these quarterback rankings,
let us know.
Or tell us who you guys think are your top 8. Reach out to us at the Fantasy Tap on Instagram and Twitter. And then if you guys have any beer recommendations, you guys have any of your fantasy football questions, I know what you guys your guys' actual season drafts are going to be coming up soon. Make sure you guys reach out to us with any questions you have. If you guys are picking from a certain spot and want to know who you're grabbing it, in the first round if he falls to you, we're here to help you guys. We're here to make you guys more competent, have better seasons, and bring home that championship.
Get them belts.
So send those questions to thefantasytap@gmail.com, and we're here to help. We'll also be having blogs coming up on the website starting this weekend.
Saturday. Yep.
Saturday.
We will be launching them Saturday.
Is Mike Evans starting the road, or?
Yeah, we got Mike Evans, Kenny Galladay, and then as long as we can get, those two will definitely be on, the blog.
We'll have those two up for you this weekend, ready to go. You can see why we have them ranked where we do, and
argue with us. Let us know why they should be higher or lower.
Make sure to check out our Instagram. We have been posting our rankings in case you guys haven't been able to catch up on every episode and just want to know where everyone's at. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter, and then we'll have them up on our website when we get to it. So thank you guys for checking us out today, and check us out Sunday for our Listener League Sunday live draft, where we will be winning the league and giving the helmet away to the second place player.
Pretty much, yeah. Anybody who comes in second, this helmet's yours. We're going to be taking home the championship. We love you guys. Thanks so much. Have a great weekend.